Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to In Between. I am your host, Grace Kipasa, always promising to bring you the best of the best in our community to share their stories, their lives, their in-between moments. Make sure you guys are following us on our YouTube channels, Facebook, and all of our social media. Today, I have an amazing woman here with us who has a powerful story, an amazing book that's out on Amazon, and we're gonna touch on a subject that is a huge taboo in our African community. But you guys know me, I like to let my guests do their own proper introduction. But the topic that we're gonna discuss today is once again, domestic violence. I cannot stretch how important this is in our community, how women need to understand that if you need help, reach out for help. I have the amazing, dominant Iffy here with us. Welcome to our platform. How are you today?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for being part of this show. Thank you for being courageous enough to write the book. Thank you for always being willing to come and share your story that most people cannot. And this thing that we call domestic violence. I mean, I just, it's like it's a heroic move to have someone sitting here on TV to talk about the story without worrying about what can happen next. If you could introduce yourself once again, Iffy, to everybody and tell them a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. I'm Iffy. I am a motivational speaker, a life coach, author of the book Take Dominion, the founder of the Dominators Club. I am a wife, a mother, a minister, a friend, a daughter, and ultimately I am a child of God. I am a king's kid. I'm a daughter of a king. That's who I am.
Listen.
I'm royalty. That's who I am.
We come
and
from
I
that
have
stage.
dominion over all things.
There you go.
That's the message.
I love that mindset. I love the fact that you said, I have dominion over all things. But has that always been the story that you've had in your life?
Yes and no. Because growing up, I knew I had something on the inside of me. I knew I had giftings.
Yes.
I knew that I was born to do this.
Yes.
However, I didn't know how that would all turn out. I didn't know what route I would be taken. Okay. And I would say I had a wonderful, upbringing until things began to happen in my life. In my early 20s, I first of all experienced something very horrific, which happened to my sister. And keep in mind, my sister was somebody who saw this gift in me even before I knew who I was, even before I discovered that I had a voice. She looked at me one day and she said, you know what, you're going to travel the world and speak.
Wow.
I was only a teenager when she said this. I didn't even know what she was talking about. I mean, I knew again that I had something in me, but I didn't know how
exactly what it was.
Exactly.
Right.
And so when she was involved in an accident that almost claimed her life, I was shocked beyond words because I remember walking into the hospital and seeing her on the hospital bed almost lifeless. She had broken bones and thankfully she survived that, but that was the first time I saw
anything
that.
Tragic.
Exactly, and that was my sister, my only sister.
Right.
And so that hit me in a very special way, and then a year or 2 years later my dad passed.
Right.
And my dad was like my hero. My dad was like my best friend. My dad was the one who gave me permission to become this person. Like he knew that I had a voice and he allowed me to use that voice.
Right.
And being the youngest of 4 children, all my siblings gave me permission to be myself. So I grew up knowing that I had something special, but then I didn't know what that thing was until life began to happen to me. And then I lost my dad as if that was not enough. I got married. And I ended up in an abusive relationship, an abusive marriage.
Wow.
And as if that was not enough, I went through a divorce. And as if that was not enough, I lost one of my brothers.
Wow.
I mean, that was when life began to spin in several directions. I didn't even know what was going on. I'm like, how did I get here? And that was when this whole book came about, because I started writing when I was going through a divorce. I had just come out of a physically abusive marriage and I needed an outlet. I just wanted my voice to be heard because I had been put in a place where I couldn't speak for so long.
Well, let me ask you this before we even get into the book and everything else. I like the beginning when you said, my dad gave me permission to be who I am. My dad gave me permission to have a voice. My sibling gives me permission, meaning that you grew up in a loving home
Yes.
where people accepted you as you were.
Absolutely.
Can you tell me a little bit about those moments where you were growing up with your mom, your dad, and your family?
Absolutely. I was born into a very loving family.
Yeah.
My mom and dad were great providers.
Yes.
I don't remember not having anything as a kid.
Yeah.
They gave us what we needed, and
Yeah.
that was love, that was affirmation, that was affection.
Yeah.
They gave us all that we wanted.
Yeah.
You know, and even till this day, my mom lives with me now, but till this day, I wouldn't be this person if not for my mother.
Right.
Even when I was going through the moments I was going through, my mom was there for me.
Right.
And so I did not experience anything violent.
Right.
I didn't experience anything traumatic
Right.
until I became an adult.
Right.
You know, I know that sounds strange, but that's my story. That's what
Right.
happened to me.
Right.
I just knew love. I knew peace. And that's my middle name, by the way, Peace. So I just knew that,
Right.
you know, all through my life
Right.
until life began to happen. I'm like, oopsie, I thought this was what life was about, but I guess I was wrong.
Right,
you
and
know?
it was surprising to you.
Yes,
so the
it was.
first tragic moment that you experienced was your sister in a tragic accident.
Yes.
Loving family, just like the Jefferson, mom, dad, sister, we
Right.
all love each other, like the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, right.
So everything is going well.
Absolutely.
And then you experience your first tragedy.
Yes.
And that takes you back a little bit because
Yes.
you're like, okay, things are not supposed to happen this way.
Absolutely.
So your sister goes through this, and you're like, okay. Mm-hmm. And then years later, how many years from the time that your sister got into an accident till your father passed?
2 years.
2 years later. So then 2 years later, your father passes away.
Yes.
This right here, the person who gave you permission,
Absolutely.
the male figure who showed you what marriage
Yes.
is supposed to be like, family is supposed to be like, gets taken away from you. Explain that moment.
I felt robbed.
Okay.
To be honest with you, that was how I felt. I felt like something precious was taken away from me.
Yeah.
I was the youngest of
Yeah.
4, and I'm still the youngest of 4 children, but I was very very attached to him, I would say,
Yeah.
emotionally,
Yeah.
because he just understood who I was.
Yeah.
He saw that strength in me, and he would always call me the manager of the house.
Right.
He would call me a leader, even when I didn't know what leadership was about. Like, he
Right.
saw those things in me,
Yes.
and he gave me permission, like, go girl, you got this.
Yes.
And so for me, when he passed, I was like lost for a
Wow.
moment. I was like, what just happened?
Wow.
And I remember so well, I was working in another state. So my mom gave me a call that morning, and I kind of felt like he was gonna pass.
Yeah.
I kind of felt it,
Yeah.
because the day I was supposed to return home was the day he passed.
Okay. Wow.
And so I was at the park waiting for transportation to go back home.
Yeah.
And then I get a call from my mom, and she broke the news to me. I cried the entire time coming back home.
Wow.
And I rode the bus, so it took me like 6 hours to get home. And I was in tears the whole time. I'm like, what?
Wow.
My dad is gone just like that? Is that how people die?
Wow.
Like, that was my first experience. I was so naive and at the same time confused,
Right.
because I didn't understand that that's how life happened to people. And so I remember those moments like it was yesterday. I remember writing a tribute to him, calling him the wisest man I ever knew,
Yes.
because he was full of wisdom. Like,
Yes.
he would tell me some great stories about his life, and he would encourage me.
Right.
And I would say that I echo him in some way, because when I speak, I hear my dad.
Right.
You know, I remember the things that he taught me. And so that was how I felt in that
Right.
moment. Like, what just happened?
Like
You mean I would
everything
never see him again?
shattered.
Yes, that was an attempt
wow.
to fill the void, I would say.
Yeah.
I got married the next year.
Wow.
The
And
very next year.
when you're talking about home, you're talking about Nigeria.
Yes, I was
So-
born and raised in Nigeria.
Born and raised in Nigeria. So then your father passes away, shattered,
Yes.
confusion, the male figure, the strong hand, the
Yes.
power in your house is gone.
Yes.
And in order, I could say that void was to be filled, like you're saying, you got married the next year.
Yes.
So that transition from losing your father and getting married, what happened?
I mean, I would say I was looking for affection. I was looking for love. And I
Okay.
felt like, okay, this is the right time. I mean, you've known this person for years. Why not go ahead and marry him? And I would say this to women because I think mine happened. I would say never go into marriage ignorantly, and never go into marriage not knowing what you're going into.
Wow.
Like for me, it was ignorance, sheer ignorance, because I saw the signs. I knew that this was not a healthy relationship for me from day one. I saw the way he treated people. I saw the way he spoke to his own family members. Like I knew there was something off, but you know, this void in me was very vulnerable, and I was like, you know what, that's not too serious. I don't think he meant that, you know, I don't think he meant it that way.
You thought you could change him?
No, I didn't think about changing him just yet. I just thought he would change. Like, I just thought it can't be that serious. Like, this cannot be that serious, you know, because there was never any episode of domestic abuse while we were dating. Right. So he was very good about concealing that. But then I would see the way he would talk to people, even the way he would talk to me sometimes. I'd be like, why are you saying that? But at the end of the day, I just thought that it was just going to go away. And problems just don't go away because you ignore them. They only get bigger, right? And so that was what happened in my case. And we got married and things were okay just for about 2 weeks, and it started.
2 weeks?
2 weeks only.
After marriage?
Yes.
So when you say home, home is Nigeria?
Yes.
So you got married there?
Yes.
Okay, and then you guys moved here together?
No, we didn't move together. We got married, and then he came back to the U.S. because he had, you know, he was living here before he got married to me. And so after we got married in Nigeria, he left and came back here, and then I joined him about 3-4 months later. So 2 weeks of joining him, the whole drama started.
And you guys, previous to you joining him, how long were you guys in a relationship?
About 10 years.
10 years. So then for you, the love of your life, and I know that in the book you put it in there that you've known him forever. This is the first man that you've met. The American dream. He leaves the United States. He leaves all these women here. He comes to there. I need to get my Iffy, bring her back to me. I could just see that joy in you when you're walking in here, like you're just gonna change everything. But 2 weeks later, it happens. What happened?
I find myself in this abusive situation, right? It graduates from words to physical abuse. And the first day it happened, I was numb for weeks because I couldn't just fathom what just happened. I just didn't know that a thing like that would happen to me. And so I was numb for weeks. I wouldn't speak to anybody. I didn't even tell my mom until 6 months into this. Yes, that was when I was courageous enough to tell my mom. Because in my culture, you don't talk about stuff like that. Everything that happens in your home remains in your home.
In the African culture in the whole.
Absolutely.
You don't talk about abuse. It's not okay.
Absolutely. And so I was made to just be quiet and deal with it. But the more I stayed, the more it became even more aggressive, the more it became even more toxic to me and to him and to all of us. And it just went on from there. And it lasted for like a year and a half before I had the courage to say, you know what, I have to put an end to this. Because it was so foreign to me. I didn't know what to do to begin with. I didn't know how to speak up. And being a speaker, I didn't know how to speak up. Well, I was numb, like, you know, because it was something that I didn't see coming. I didn't see that coming at all. And so after like a year and a half of a domestic cycle, after my son was born, because I had my first child in my first year of marriage. So after my son was born, there was another episode of domestic abuse. That was the day I picked up the phone and called 911. I'm like, I'm not having this. Because I didn't want my son seeing that at all. He was only 7 months old. But I just said, you know what, I can't have this. Because coming to find out, his dad was also physically abusive to his mother.
Your ex-husband.
My ex-husband. So he kind of saw that growing up.
For him,
that
it's
was
normal.
a norm for him. And I vowed that my son would never witness a thing like that. And that was what led to the whole separation.
This is all happening in a year after your father passed away. So you're coming into this marriage as in, my husband will be able to help fill this void of this hero that allowed you, that gave you permission to be you. And you walk into this relationship, you no longer have this permission. Let's get into the day that you realize that this has to stop. But before we go there, Iffy, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back as we talk about what happened the day that you made the decision of This is abusive. I'm done with this. We'll be right back after these messages.
One Word TV, let your light shine.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back here still with Lady Ify talking about domestic violence and the book that she wrote about her tragic moment in the marriage and how she was able to get out. So there was a time, Ify, before we went on break, something happened where you're like, no, this is not right. Right. Despite the accusation that you could receive, despite that you were told that you had to not talk about this, right. You have to protect your marriage, right. Whatever Africans, churches, people would say. What happened that day when you're like, no, I can't do this anymore?
That morning we had an argument, which was the norm in our home then. So at this point, he picks me up and he throws me on the floor. And I almost smashed my head into the base of the bed. Oh, wow. And when I tell you the wood was this thick, it was thick. And that was when my life flashed before me. I'm like, oh my God, what if I hit my head into this? Like, what would have happened? The story would have been different. Right. Like, we would have had casualties on that day. Like, it would have been bad. Yes. And that was the day I said, you know what? No, this has to stop. Yeah. This is not good for you. It's not good for me, because one day we could do something to each other that could be really, really bad. Yes. And so that was the day I walked out of the room. I picked up my phone and I called 911. I didn't even think about it. Yes. And they arrived and they picked him up and he was arrested. Yes. And of course, the whole family was against me. They said I wanted to destroy the life of their son. And it was just crazy. But anyway, he got released, he came back home, and it became worse. Like, it went from bad to worse. Wow. You know, the communication broke down entirely. And after like a week and a half, I was like, you know what? This is not a safe place for me to be in. Yeah. And so one night when he left the house, I picked up my bag. My mom was with me at the time. I picked up my mom, picked up my son, and we left. Wow. And I didn't know where I was going. I only had about $50 in my pocket. That was all I had. The only place I knew to go was my job. And so I drove down to my job. I slept in my car. We all slept in the car because we didn't have money to stay in a hotel anywhere else. And the next morning I washed my face, took my mom to my friend's place to go stay with the baby. And then I went to work like nothing happened.
Just like that. You pick up your whole entire family.
Yes.
You don't know where. At this time, Ify, what are you thinking? I came to this world, this US. You don't know anybody here. I'm pretty sure in this 6 months or in this year of marriage, you haven't really built that many friendship. You don't know who to call, who to run to.
Absolutely.
You're being accused of trying to ruin someone's life who almost killed you. You have a 1-year-old son. Your mother is there. I'm sure she probably doesn't know what to do anymore. Your hero, your father is not there. Did you ask yourself, where was God in this?
I did, and at the same time, I knew that he was with me the whole time, because first of all, I wouldn't have survived what I survived if not for God. And that morning, I knew that that was a sign for me to get out. Okay. That was a very definite sign from God saying, you need to get out of this. It's not healthy for you. Right. Because if my head had gone into that wood, I don't know what would have happened. Wow. I would have been probably dead. I don't know. But that was a huge sign. Right. And for me, that was God warning me, you need to do something about this condition, because I had two options: stay there and do nothing, or pick myself up and do something. Yes. Because I knew that that was in my life. Right. I knew that the life that I envisioned growing up was beautiful. Yes. It was loving. Yes. There was nothing in that life that I saw in that picture.
This is an example of marriage.
No.
But as for your ex-husband, this is what marriage meant to him.
Absolutely.
So whenever you got out, if you went to work, then what?
I had to look for a place to stay. Okay. Because we needed shelter, right? And so, matter of fact, prior to this time, I had been in a homeless shelter twice. So being homeless wasn't foreign anymore to me, to be honest with you, because on 2 occasions within the 1.5 years of being in an abusive marriage, I was kicked out twice, out of the house.
By your husband?
Yes. He told me to leave, that I didn't need to be in his house. And I left on both occasions because I'm not confrontational. I didn't know how to fight. People told me, why did you leave? You should have stayed back. Well, I don't know how to fight. Like, it wasn't in my
You
DNA.
didn't grow up in this.
Exactly.
You don't know what this is.
So when he said to leave, I just picked up my things and I
And you
left.
left.
When he said to leave, I just left. So people blame me for that. You shouldn't have left. It's your home as well. You should have stayed back. I was like, stay back and fight him? Is that what you expect me to do?
Right.
And so at that point, that was like the third time I didn't have a place to stay. It wasn't new at all. I mean, it wasn't a foreign space at that point, because I had experienced 2 other occasions before that one. And so one thing that really bothered me was, where would my mom stay? I was thinking about my son. I was thinking about my mom. I was thinking about myself as well. I'm like, I have to find a place. And my friend was very kind enough to lend us her couch, and that was where we spent about 4 nights before I got paid. And then I moved into a 1-bedroom.
Right. And you got your own place.
And I got my own place.
Right.
And that was how I was able to at least get us to a comfortable place. And after that episode, he came back begging.
For you to come back.
Absolutely. Come back home, blah, blah, blah. Of course, I didn't go back home, but then I let him into my apartment.
Yes.
So he came back into my apartment. I was thinking, okay, maybe we can, kind of
Work
resolve
things
things,
out.
work things out. But it wasn't getting any better. It was only getting worse. I mean, he didn't hit me again, of course, but then the verbal abuse continued, the emotional abuse continued. I just said, you know what, this is not working for us. You gotta go.
Yes.
And I let him out. Yeah.
Okay. So whenever you let him back in, was that the fact that you were thinking, oh, this time around, he might change? It's gonna get better. He's the father of my child.
Absolutely.
What will people say?
Absolutely.
I don't have a father. This is the only man figure I have.
Right.
So people out there will be like, well, you let him back in.
Right.
But I'm sure you had your reasoning why. But why, when you told him to go, was it definite for you that this is in the point of no return?
Yes. When I asked him to leave, I knew that he wasn't going to come back. And like you said, I had reasons to let him back. He was the father of my child. He was my husband at the time, although we were separated for, a little amount of time. But I was like, yes, what would people say? You got to fight for your marriage. Like, I listened to all of that and I wanted to work it out. But what I realized and what I learned from that was abuses don't change without help.
Oh, wow.
See, a lot of times we just say, go back, reconcile, everything will be okay, but they wouldn't change.
Right.
People don't change just like that.
Right.
Right?
Right.
You have to trigger the change. You have to want the change.
Yes.
And he didn't think anything was wrong with him. So how do you change someone who
doesn't think they're doing anything wrong?
Exactly. So it was very difficult to have that communication with him. It was difficult to establish change. And when I knew that I was getting to a dead end, I was like, you know what, this is not healthy for you. It's not healthy for me. And I don't want us being abusive towards each other.
Yeah.
It's better you just go away and I sort myself out.
But in this type of situation, if you're in the African community, they always tell the woman to go seek help.
Yes.
I'm sure you were being told you need help.
Yes.
What did you do to him? Are you making him mad?
Yes.
You're doing things a woman is not supposed to do.
Absolutely.
Are you cooking? Are you cleaning? Because whenever a man becomes abusive, the first person is blamed is the victim.
Absolutely.
Which is the wife. Nobody went to him. Did anybody go to him? His family? Anyone told him that you need help? You don't beat your wife?
Absolutely. I mean, it was both ways, right?
Okay.
People came to me first, especially his mother. His mother, who was also being abused, right?
wow.
She was speaking from that standpoint.
Yeah.
So she would say things like, you have to be patient. You have to stoop to conquer. You have to fight for your marriage. And all that was just telling me was okay. I didn't see any, this is bad. And because domestic abuse is a crime. I don't think we realize that.
Yes, it is.
It is a crime.
Yes.
Just because it happens in your bedroom or it happens in your living room doesn't make it less of a crime.
Right.
It is a crime that should be reported.
Right.
And because she never reported her crime, she thought it was okay to convince me not to report.
For yours.
Exactly. So yes, you would hear things like, oh, don't say anything. It's okay. Work it out. What did you do to him? Maybe you should be more loving to him. No, that doesn't help you at all. And that doesn't help the victim. Right. That doesn't help the abuser himself.
Right.
What needs to happen is change. And I think a lot of times, like you said, we focus on the women thinking that they are the reason why the men are acting out.
Yeah.
But then abuse shouldn't happen to anybody at all.
Right.
It shouldn't happen to any human being. No human being should be subjected to that.
Right.
Whether it be physical or emotional, no.
Right.
Or mental. No one should abuse you to that point. No one should dare.
Wow.
Because you are precious, and you need to understand that. For me, it was the truth that I knew about myself that just couldn't contain what was happening around me.
Because you grew up differently. But
Exactly.
then, but if there's some women who in your position, they grew up in the household like this.
Yes.
Where mom beat dad or dad beat mom both ways. So for them, this is normal.
Absolutely.
So they don't see the wrong in it. This is what they grew up in. But before, listen, we could do 5 hours talking about this, but I want to get into your book. Whenever this happened,
Yes.
you survived it because
Yes.
you're here.
Yes.
What courage you took, because if you're in a position to where I'm talking about my marriage, I'm exposing my house, I'm exposing my husband, his family, everybody
Yes.
around me, and you put it all in a book.
Yes.
Where did that title came from, Taking Dominion? What was it? What inspired you to write this?
First of all, I didn't intend to write a book. It wasn't my intent at all.
Okay.
For me, writing a book was an outlet.
Okay.
It was a means of me expressing myself, sharing my story, and owning my truth.
Yes.
So when I was writing, it was only an idea that God gave me to write. I didn't even have a book title at the time I was writing. I began writing in 2013. That was when my divorce was final.
Yeah.
And after that incident, I was living in shame, living in guilt. I was frustrated. I was angry.
Yes.
I was feeling all sorts of emotions.
Yeah.
And I knew that the way to help my healing process was to speak up.
Yes.
Was to share.
Yeah.
Was to write to myself. It was a note to me. This book, Take Dominion, was a note to myself. I was only encouraging me.
Yes.
And then when people began to approach me, women that were going through what I was going through, they saw strength in me. I didn't even see strength in myself at the time because I was going through my walk.
Yeah.
And for me, I wasn't doing it because I wanted to be an author. No, that was the least of my worries at the time.
Yeah.
So when people began to see the strength in me, that was when I knew, okay, I see God. There is actually purpose in my pain.
Yes.
That was when I began to see that there were people hurting, and it was my response. I felt responsible for them.
Yeah.
I felt responsible to show them the light because I had walked out of mine.
Yes.
Not without scars, with scars,
Yeah.
right? But then I was healing, and part of my healing process was to just help other people,
Yes.
was to speak up.
Yes.
And so that was when the book came together. And I tell people, if you had read the first draft of my book,
Yes.
you wouldn't be inspired because it was from a place of
Hurt.
shame,
And shame.
pain, guilt, frustration. It was dark.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Until I began to see myself from a different standpoint.
Yes.
I saw myself as a victim.
Yes.
Today I see myself as a dominator.
Yes.
It's like two different planes.
Exactly.
It wasn't the same at all.
Yes.
So at the time I was writing from a powerless standpoint.
Yes.
Like, look at what they did to me. Look
Yeah.
at what happened to me.
Yes.
No, you don't happen. Things don't happen to you. You happen to life.
Yes.
And when that mindset kicked in for me, that was a game changer.
Oh, wow.
Because I quit seeing myself as
As
a
a
victim.
victim.
I saw myself as a victor.
Yes.
I didn't just see myself as a survivor. I saw
Yes.
myself as someone who was dominating in the very places
Then
where she had defeat.
Wow.
I was having victory in a place where I once had defeat.
Wow.
So for me, that was the game changer
Of the whole book.
of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then the book title did not come until I was ready to publish the book.
Wow. Let me ask
I didn't have a book title until I was ready.
until
Yeah.
you then to
Yeah.
get to. So let me ask you this before we take this quick break. Did you forgive him?
Absolutely, I did.
But before you can even go deeper into that, did you forgive yourself?
Biggest one. I started with myself, actually.
Wow. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back as we talk about the part of the forgiveness. Did she forgive the family? Did she forgive her husband? Did she forgive herself? Anyone that wasn't able to support, we'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are still here with Ishi, and we are about to talk about the time. This is the part where Jesus steps in. This is the part where forgiveness comes in place. What did you say to yourself? What happened the day you were like, I need to forgive this man, his family, myself? What happened to you around that time where you were building up to build the strength, because you have a child with this man? Mm-hmm. He will always be in your life.
Absolutely.
You have to always see him.
Yes.
How did you come about that?
It was a journey. It was a process. And because I wanted wholeness more than anything else, more than being right or wrong, that wasn't my focus. I really wanted peace in my life. I really wanted to be whole. I really wanted to be at peace with myself, most importantly.
Yes.
Because as I write in the book, I made a choice to marry him.
Yes.
So it wasn't like someone forced me into it. No.
Yes.
I made a choice, and my choice was not very good.
Yes.
And I had to come to terms with that.
Yes.
I had to forgive me
Yes.
for letting me go into something that spelled danger.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know, I let myself down in that regard. I lowered my standard, and I had to forgive myself first.
Yes.
Because I fought to forgive him, but I just couldn't until I forgave myself.
Yes.
So I knew that for me to move on in life, for me to become the person that I so desire,
Yes.
for me to become my greatest self,
Yeah.
I needed to let go.
Yes.
I needed to let go. It was painful, but I needed to let it go.
Yes.
I'm like, you know what? There's so much ahead of me
Yes.
than what has happened to me.
Yes.
And I'm not going to let one bad experience
Yes.
ruin the rest of my life.
Yes.
It was a very deliberate, intentional decision
That you had to make.
that I had to make, because I knew that if I didn't do it,
Yes.
it will be a clog in my own will.
Yes.
It will stop me from being successful.
Yes.
It will stop me from becoming the person that I so desire to become.
Yes.
It will stop me from interacting with my kids with love. It will
Yes.
stop me from loving my husband the way I do.
Yes.
It would love me from ministering to people. It will stop me from doing what I'm doing. I knew that.
Yes.
And I knew that I had the power to release it.
Yes.
You know, when I came to that understanding, like, listen, I know this hurts,
Yes.
but you have the power to release this person.
Yes.
You have the power to release the situation.
Yes.
You may not like it, but release it for your own good.
Yes.
I had to have that. I had that talk with myself.
Yourself, facing
I
yourself
did.
and talking to
I
yourself.
talked to myself like,
Yeah.
you have to
Release this
release
person.
this person
Because
it's not worth it.
Right, but because today you remarried.
Yes, I am.
You are married with beautiful kids.
Yes.
How was that experience doing it again? Because there's a lot of people, once they get out of this, oh, I'm not doing this again. But you had the strength to get back into it. When you look at your now husband, what do you say to yourself? What do you say to God? What do you say to, do you go back, well, let me not act this way because he might be this man again. Let me not do, what do you do at this time now that you remarried?
I am grateful.
Yes.
I see restoration.
Yes.
I see transformation.
Yes.
I see a new life when I look at my life.
Yes.
I mean, when I look at my life now and I remember what happened 10 years ago, I'm like, my goodness,
Yeah.
this is like night and day.
Yes.
This is what a marriage should look like.
Yes.
But that was because of one thing, my decision.
Yes.
Because again, we have to understand that we are where we are today because of the decisions we've made.
Yes.
Because of the decisions of yesterday, we find ourselves here.
Yes.
And if you're in a place where you don't like, the one thing you have to do is make another decision
Yes.
to be in a better place.
Yes.
A lot of times we get stuck because we don't want to make a decision.
To be in a better place.
Even the Bible talks about this. A lot of people, multitudes of people are in the valley of decision.
Oh, wow.
And every single day you have to make a decision to choose you.
Yeah.
Make a decision to love, to forgive, to be that bigger person in a relationship.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, when I look at my life, I see a changed person.
Yes.
Because I haven't always been this person.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
haven't always been this person. It came as a result of my pain. It came as a result of healing. It came as a result of personal growth on my part. And like you said, you know, you would have been so scared to get married again.
Yes.
At some point in my life, getting married was not a priority for me, if
Okay.
I'm being honest.
Okay.
I was divorced for 5 years before I met my now husband.
Yes.
So getting married was not on my radar.
Yeah.
I had so much to deal with. I had kids to raise. I was a single mom. I was working. I didn't have time to even date,
Yeah.
let alone consider
Getting
something.
married again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I would say when I waited, that was one thing I know I did. I focused on myself. I
Yes.
wanted to grow me.
Yes.
I knew that I had made a mistake, but I vowed not to allow that mistake define the rest
you.
of my life.
Yes.
It was only a chapter in my life. That's not the whole story.
Yes.
And I knew that there was a brighter side. I just
Yes.
needed to walk myself through it.
The brighter side.
Exactly. And so that's how I view my marriage. I'm blessed to have the family I do have.
Yes.
It is a beautiful family. I'm a blessed person. I thank God for that. Yeah.
Yes.
I do thank God for my life.
What I like about what you said, is you said, choose you, and you chose you.
Absolutely.
So if you had a message that you had to give to that young mother, young woman, entered into marriage, who doesn't know if this is abuse or this is not abuse, because we didn't even touch on the fact that there's emotional, physical, there's so many different types of abuses, but they need to go get your book, because I'm reading this book and it is amazing. What will you say to that woman? And secondly, what will you say to that husband who is in this other situation, who is the abuser, who doesn't think he needs help? What is your message to these two people?
So to the first category of people who may be in an abusive relationship, whether physical, emotional, whatever, first of all, understand that your life is precious. Understand that there is a plan and a purpose for your life. Understand that God did not create you to be dominated by someone. God created in you and he placed on the inside of you the power to rule over all things. Key word, all things, not over people. So God did not give us power to dominate people. God gave us power to dominate conditions, to dominate situations. And when you understand that the condition you're in is a reflection of your thought, because it all begins with your thought. As a man thinks, so is he. You may have thought yourself into the condition you're in, but guess what? You can think your way through. You can think your way out of the situation you're in. So my heart goes to you. I want you to know that you are precious. And I want you to know that domestic abuse is a crime. It should not be tolerated. I don't care who's doing it, but it should be reported. You need to speak up because it could take your life. And to the man who is abusive, you do need help. Men find it very difficult to admit that they need help.
Yes.
They find it difficult to do that, but you have to understand that that's the only option you have, is to come out clean and understand that you need help so that God can start the work on the inside of you. I've seen abusers changed,
Wow.
but then it doesn't come by just wishing. It doesn't come by just talking.
Yeah.
It comes by putting in the work.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to put in the work,
Yes.
if you're willing to own up to your mistakes,
Yes.
then hey, there is help for you.
Yes. So there's people out there who want to reach out to you.
Yes.
First, can you let them know if it's possible? Because there's some young women who cannot go to their pastor, they cannot go to the church, they cannot go to their family. People will judge them. But they could go to somebody who's been through their story. Is it okay for them to reach out to you?
Absolutely.
And secondly, where do they find your book?
The book is on Amazon.com. The title is Take Dominion. I believe that dominion is yours for the taking.
Yes.
It's the power that God allowed us to have,
Yes.
but just because we have it doesn't mean that we're walking in it.
Yes.
There are a lot of people in church that are not walking in their power,
Yes.
right?
Right.
But they do have it.
Yes.
I love to use this analogy. It's like having the keys to a brand new car.
Yes.
Right? It's sitting on your driveway. It
Yeah.
looks really pretty.
Yeah.
That's what the power on the inside of you looks like. You know there's something greater on the inside of you.
Yes.
It's like that brand new car.
Yes.
But just because you have it on your driveway doesn't mean that you are driving the car.
Yes.
You have to literally get into the car, get
Yes.
into the driver's seat of your life,
Yes.
and begin to navigate your life.
Yes.
That's how you take charge of a situation. That's how you take dominion.
Yes.
It doesn't come easy.
Yes.
So the book is on Amazon.com.
Yes.
The Kindle version is on there, and the paperback copy is also on Amazon.com.
Awesome.
Yes.
And these people can reach out to you.
Absolutely. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and also for coaching opportunities,
Yes.
you can find, there's a website. It is johnmaxwellgroup.com/Ifykekwa, which is IFYIKEKHUA. We want to put that down for them.
Yes, we'll put that down for them.
Might be difficult to remember,
Yes.
but that's my first and last name. And you can find me on Facebook and Instagram as well.
Well, you are an amazing woman, Ify. I'm going to tell you why. You're African. You're from Nigeria. You come from a country where we respect marriage, a continent where marriage is everything. A woman who is not married is not considered. You're a Christian. You love God. Where divorce is not allowed.
Yes.
In any circumstances,
Right.
it gets looked down on. But you decided to choose you.
Absolutely.
You chose your life, and with the help of Christ, you find yourself writing a book to help everybody else. And I pray that your testimony goes further than just this show.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for sitting down
Absolutely.
with me. And man, my prayer is that a woman, a man who is listening to you today will understand that you can get out of this. Go find her book, go contact her. If you have nobody else, she doesn't need to know who you are. She doesn't need to know your story. Speak to somebody that can help you get out of this situation. Thank you so much, Ify, for
Thank
being
you,
with
Grace.
us. I need to have you come back.
Absolutely.
My shows are not long enough. I want to talk more, right? But it's such a pleasure to have you here to be part of my
Thank you
show.
for having me.
And to everybody who is watching, domestic violence is not okay. Your life can be taken away from you. Choose you, like she said, choose you, and God can get you out of this. And to men who are going through this, you need help. You can change. You're not a demon, or you're not going to stay this way forever. Go seek help. Thank you, everybody who is watching. I am your host, Grace Kipasa. Until next time, season 3 in between. Love you guys. May God bless you.